When we talk about the clash between Judge Judy and Jasmine Crockett, the first and perhaps most striking element to consider is the raw power dynamics that were on display. Judge Judy has built her entire career and reputation on commanding authority within the courtroom. For decades, audiences have seen her as the embodiment of legal sharpness, someone who cannot be shaken, someone who will always have the last word. That persona is a key part of why her show has captivated viewers worldwide. She is known for her piercing one-liners, her quick judgments, and her ability to bring anyone who challenges her under control with just a few words. It is a type of authority that seems almost unshakable, and yet in this instance, it was tested in a way that surprised everyone. The encounter with Jasmine Crockett revealed how power, when used in a manner meant to intimidate, can sometimes backfire when met with equal or greater confidence. Judge Judy entered this situation with her usual strategy, attempting to establish dominance immediately. The very first moments of her interactions often set the tone. She projects sharpness in her voice, uses piercing eye contact, and applies cutting remarks to undermine whoever stands before her. It is a calculated method of showing that she is in control and that her word will not be challenged. For years, this dynamic has been successful, because most people who enter her courtroom are not equipped to handle that kind of psychological pressure. They falter, they grow nervous, they stumble in their words, and they concede power to her without even realizing it. The tactic works because it preys on imbalance, on the gap between an authoritative judge and ordinary citizens. But Jasmine Crockett was not an ordinary participant, and that difference is crucial to understanding why the power dynamics shifted in such a dramatic way. Crockett, being a congresswoman and an individual experienced in high-pressure debates, did not come into the encounter unprepared for confrontation. She understands the value of composure, the necessity of standing firm in one's ground, and the importance of not being intimidated by forceful personalities. That kind of training does not come overnight, it comes from countless encounters where authority figures attempt to control the narrative, and where standing tall becomes a matter of personal principle. In this situation, she displayed exactly that. When Judge Judy attempted to shame her, to reduce her presence with dismissive words and an authoritarian tone, Crockett's demeanor did not crumble. Instead, she held her ground, and that was the turning point. The tension here is not simply about a disagreement between two people. It is about a test of authority itself. Judge Judy's role has always been rooted in the idea that she is the final authority figure in her courtroom, that her word is not just the loudest but the most definitive. When she tried to apply that same authority against Crockett, she expected the usual result: compliance, nervous laughter, maybe even silence. But instead, she encountered someone who refused to shrink. Crockett's confidence disrupted the balance. It exposed the fact that Judy's power, while theatrical and commanding on television, is not invincible. Power, after all, is not just about volume or sharpness, it is about control of perception. And in that moment, Judy lost control of how she was perceived. The audience witnessed something rare, the judge herself faltering. This moment reveals something fascinating about power dynamics in general. When authority relies heavily on intimidation, its effectiveness is limited to situations where the other party accepts intimidation as a given. But the moment someone refuses to accept that dynamic, the entire structure collapses. Crockett's refusal to bend created a ripple effect. It wasn't just about the exchange of words, it was about body language, confidence, and tone. She maintained composure while Judy's sharpness began to appear less like control and more like frustration. In those seconds, the courtroom atmosphere shifted. What was supposed to be an exercise of dominance by Judge Judy turned into a moment of vulnerability. It is also important to note how the audience plays a role in these dynamics. Judge Judy's reputation is built not only on her authority within the courtroom but on the fact that millions of viewers endorse her power. They expect her to dominate, to come out on top, to make the other side appear foolish. That expectation amplifies her power because she knows the public is watching, and those who stand before her often know it too. Yet in this particular encounter, the audience became witnesses to something they did not expect. Instead of seeing Crockett reduced to silence, they saw Judy shaken. This reversal made the moment even more striking. It wasn't only about the clash between two individuals. It was about the collapse of an image that had been carefully cultivated for decades. The dynamic between these two women highlights how authority can shift in unexpected ways. On one side, there was institutional authority, the power of the bench, the years of dominance in a televised courtroom. On the other side, there was personal authority, the confidence of someone accustomed to standing against opposition and not allowing intimidation to dictate behavior. When these two forms of authority collided, the stronger one was revealed not by title or reputation but by composure. Crockett's unshaken response became a form of silent power, and in comparison, Judy's attempt to escalate the situation made her appear less in control. What makes this clash particularly important is that it serves as a reminder that authority is never absolute. It can be challenged, it can be undermined, and it can even be dismantled if it relies too much on performance without substance. Judge Judy's authority, though powerful on screen, was rooted in a persona designed to dominate. Crockett, however, relied on resilience and authenticity, and in doing so, she exposed the fragility of authority that depends too much on fear. The trembling exit of Judge Judy in the aftermath was not simply about frustration, it symbolized the crumbling of a power dynamic that had, until then, seemed untouchable. Resilience under pressure is often the true measure of a person's strength, and in the heated exchange between Judge Judy and Jasmine Crockett, resilience became the defining factor that shifted the entire atmosphere. To understand the power of that moment, it is important to recognize that Judge Judy has spent years perfecting the art of applying pressure in her courtroom. She uses her tone, her language, and her reputation to overwhelm anyone standing before her, creating an environment where most people crack under the weight of her authority. But resilience is not about avoiding pressure. It is about maintaining one's composure despite it, about standing tall when the instinct might be to shrink. Jasmine Crockett demonstrated that resilience in a way that was both unexpected and unforgettable, and it changed the dynamics of the confrontation completely. When Judge Judy tried to shame her, the expectation was clear. Judy believed that Crockett would stumble, that she would lose her rhythm, and that her confidence would break in front of the cameras. That is the pattern that has repeated itself countless times with other individuals. But Crockett did not take the bait. Her resilience showed in her body language first, her posture remained steady, her voice did not quiver, and her expression communicated calm strength rather than nervousness. Even when Judy's words were sharp and designed to cut, Crockett responded with balance and poise. She did not lash out, nor did she retreat into silence. Instead, she held her ground, and that is where resilience began to turn the situation around. Resilience in high-pressure moments is not accidental. It is built from experience, from the ability to navigate countless confrontations without losing control of one's emotions. Crockett, as a Congresswoman, has faced intense questioning, heated debates, and public scrutiny. Those experiences taught her how to withstand attacks without faltering. In this case, all of that training came to the surface. While Judge Judy used intimidation as her weapon, Crockett used composure as her shield. Resilience became not just a personal strength but a visible statement that she could not be broken by force of personality alone. The moment also demonstrated the psychological power of resilience. Pressure in a confrontation often works because the person under attack internalizes the authority of the attacker. They believe that the other side holds more power, and so they collapse under that belief. But Crockett flipped that expectation. Her refusal to internalize Judy's authority created an entirely different psychological environment. The more Judy pressed, the more obvious it became that Crockett was not budging. Instead of Judy's words weakening her, they bounced off, and that bounce-back effect began to chip away at Judy's usual command. Resilience, in that sense, acted like a mirror. Judy's attempts at shaming did not stick to Crockett, they reflected back onto Judy, exposing cracks in her own composure. What makes this resilience especially remarkable is the fact that it unfolded on a public stage. Millions of people are accustomed to seeing Judge Judy dominate her courtroom with no resistance. The pressure of that expectation can itself be overwhelming for anyone who stands in front of her. To resist her in private would already require strength, but to do so in front of an audience that expects Judy to win requires an even higher level of resilience. Crockett knew that every movement, every word, every reaction was being observed, and yet she chose to remain calm and unshaken. That choice turned her resilience into a form of power that extended beyond herself. It became a message to everyone watching that authority does not have to be accepted blindly. Resilience under pressure is also about emotional control. One of the easiest mistakes people make when confronted by authority is to react impulsively, either through anger or defensiveness. That is often what Judy counts on. If someone gets angry, she can label them as disrespectful. If they become defensive, she can highlight their weakness. Either way, she maintains control. But Crockett did not give her that opportunity. Her emotional control ensured that Judy had no opening to seize upon. The steadiness of Crockett's responses made Judy's aggressiveness appear less like confidence and more like insecurity. Each attempt to shame was met with a wall of composure that could not be breached. That calmness was not passive, it was active resilience, a deliberate refusal to be moved by external pressure. Another layer to this resilience is the way Crockett projected confidence through her voice. Tone carries tremendous weight in moments of conflict. A wavering or hesitant voice signals weakness, while an overly loud or defensive tone can signal a lack of control. Crockett found the middle ground. Her voice was firm, measured, and unwavering. This vocal steadiness reinforced the impression that she was unshakable. Words alone were not what communicated resilience, it was the way those words were delivered, the rhythm, the volume, and the clarity that carried authority without aggression. This balance is a hallmark of resilience in high-stress environments. Resilience also became evident in how Crockett framed herself in relation to Judy's attacks. Instead of allowing Judy to define her through insults or dismissive remarks, Crockett subtly redefined the narrative by maintaining dignity. That is another form of resilience. Not simply absorbing the blows but refusing to let those blows shape one's identity. By staying firm, she ensured that Judy's attempts to diminish her did not land as intended. This type of resilience protects not only the individual's confidence in the moment but also their reputation in the eyes of the audience. Viewers could see that Crockett was not shaken, and that perception matters as much as the actual exchange of words. Perhaps the most significant aspect of Crockett's resilience was how it ultimately exposed the limits of Judy's authority. Resilience has a way of revealing whether the power being applied against someone is genuine or performative. In this case, Judy's authority depended on the assumption that others would crack under pressure. But when Crockett did not crack, Judy's power lost some of its force. Her attempts to escalate began to appear less like control and more like desperation. That shift in perception occurred because resilience created contrast. Crockett looked composed while Judy looked unsettled. This incident illustrates how resilience is not just about surviving pressure but about transforming it. By refusing to yield, Crockett turned the pressure into a spotlight, not on her, but on Judy's inability to break her. That reversal changed the energy of the entire confrontation. Instead of Crockett appearing as the one under fire, it was Judy who ended up visibly rattled. Resilience became not just a defensive mechanism but an offensive strategy, one that shifted power away from Judy and toward Crockett. The clash between Judge Judy and Jasmine Crockett did not remain confined to the walls of a courtroom setting. Its impact reverberated far beyond, touching audiences, commentators, and observers who recognized that this moment represented something larger than a simple confrontation. Whenever a high-profile exchange takes place, particularly between two figures with established reputations, the ripple effects are determined not only by the words spoken but by the symbolism of what unfolds. Judge Judy, an icon of television justice, is known for her unwavering command, while Jasmine Crockett represents a rising political figure with her own authority and presence. When these two forces collided, the impact was amplified by the fact that millions witnessed a scenario where expected roles were reversed, and that reversal created waves that extended into public discourse, media coverage, and even broader discussions about power, authority, and accountability. One of the first impacts to note is the shift in public perception. Judge Judy has cultivated a reputation as someone who cannot be challenged, and audiences tune in largely because they expect to see her dominate. For many viewers, the encounter with Crockett was shocking precisely because it broke that expectation. To see Judy, who has built her career on control, visibly shaken and forced into retreat, was a disruption of a familiar narrative. The impact of that disruption was profound, because it forced people to reconsider the nature of her authority. It raised questions about whether her dominance was absolute or whether it depended on her subjects' willingness to yield. By contrast, Crockett's performance under pressure boosted her reputation, presenting her as someone who could withstand one of the most intimidating personalities on television. That perception elevated her stature not only among her supporters but among neutral observers who admired her composure. The moment also had a cultural impact, as it tapped into broader conversations about gender, power, and respect. Both women are strong figures in their own right, but the way Judy attempted to shame Crockett and the way Crockett resisted brought new energy to discussions about how women, especially women of color, are treated when they challenge authority. Many viewers saw Crockett's resilience as symbolic, a demonstration of how marginalized voices can resist being silenced by established power structures. The confrontation became more than a personal clash, it became a representation of resilience against institutional authority, and that symbolism resonated widely. Social media amplified this symbolism, as clips of the exchange circulated rapidly, with audiences offering interpretations, memes, and commentary that extended the life of the moment far beyond the original courtroom setting. Another dimension of the impact lies in the media's response. High-profile confrontations are often replayed and analyzed, but this one carried an unusual weight because it represented a fracture in the image of someone as untouchable as Judge Judy. Commentators dissected not just what was said but what it meant, framing the incident as a rare vulnerability in Judy's persona. Some analysts pointed out how Crockett's composure highlighted the limits of intimidation as a tool, while others noted the broader significance of a Congresswoman holding her ground against a figure who had become a cultural symbol of authority. The media coverage transformed the incident from a moment of drama into a point of discussion about deeper societal themes. The public reaction is another crucial piece of the impact. Audiences are not passive observers, they shape the narrative through their responses. For many viewers, Crockett's refusal to back down was empowering, a moment of validation that authority figures can be challenged and even unsettled when faced with resilience. Online forums, social media platforms, and discussion threads lit up with praise for Crockett's composure and critiques of Judy's tactics. Some viewers even described the moment as historic, not because of the literal stakes of the courtroom exchange, but because of what it symbolized about power dynamics in society at large. The audience's engagement ensured that the moment would not fade quickly, instead, it became a cultural reference point. The impact also extended into political spheres. As a Congresswoman, Crockett's performance in this confrontation became an asset that extended far beyond the immediate context. It is also worth noting the symbolic impact on authority itself. Judge Judy's authority has always been unique, blending legal expertise with theatrical performance. Her courtroom persona is as much about entertainment as it is about law, and for years, that persona went unchallenged. But when Crockett disrupted that dynamic, it highlighted how fragile performative authority can be. Authority that depends on fear or intimidation is inherently vulnerable when someone refuses to be intimidated. The impact of this realization is significant, because it extends into everyday life. Viewers are reminded that authority figures, no matter how powerful they seem, are not beyond challenge, and that resilience can shift the balance of power. That message, carried through the symbolism of the clash, is perhaps one of the most enduring impacts. Furthermore, the confrontation inspired debates about accountability. If even someone as commanding as Judge Judy can be shaken when challenged, then the idea of holding authority accountable becomes more plausible to ordinary people. The impact, therefore, was not limited to entertainment or politics. It contributed to broader discussions about how individuals can question authority, how power should be exercised, and how respect is earned rather than demanded. The courtroom setting became a metaphor for larger societal arenas where similar dynamics play out, from workplaces to political systems, and that metaphor gave the moment significance beyond its immediate drama. The clash also demonstrated the role of representation in shaping impact. Crockett's ability to stand firm resonated with communities that have long experienced being spoken over or dismissed by figures of authority. Her presence in that moment became a form of representation, showing that it is possible to resist attempts at humiliation or silencing. That representation deepened the impact by connecting the confrontation to broader struggles for dignity and equality. The emotional resonance of seeing someone resist successfully cannot be overstated, and it is part of why the incident spread so quickly and remained in conversation for so long. Finally, the impact beyond the courtroom can be measured in the way the incident continues to be remembered and referenced. It was not just another clash, it became a defining moment that challenged expectations and reshaped perceptions. The trembling exit of Judge Judy symbolized the collapse of the control she was expected to maintain, while Crockett's calm resilience stood as a countersymbol of strength. Those symbols took on a life of their own, carried forward in conversations, articles, social media posts, and political discussions, ensuring that the impact extended long after the cameras stopped rolling.